Today, stopping by, reoccurring guest, former NFL wide receiver, NFL expert, has a show, the Believe in Texans podcast. Make sure to check it out. Former NFL wide receiver, Cecil Shorts III. Cecil, thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm well, brother. How about you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. You know, it's been a busy week, and a lot to talk about. We'll look at the NFL, though, and the Houston Texans, the team that you represent so well, had a tough Thursday night football game against the New York Jets, but they can't get stuck in the past because they have another big-time matchup against the Lions. Nico Collins returning. You know, how important is it for the Texans to potentially pull out a win this weekend against the Lions?
You know what? It's going to be huge, man. It's going to be huge because if you look at the schedule for the Texans, you can say besides the Buffalo Bills, you really haven't beat anybody that good, right? You can look at their schedule and say, hey, besides Buffalo, who have you really beat that's in playoff or Super Bowl contention, right? So this is big because, in my opinion, Detroit is probably the favorite to come out the NFC right now as of today. They're 7-1. They probably have the best offense in the NFL, the best total package in the NFL as far as offense, defense, and special teams. They look really good. They're playing at a high level. So now, hey, you're struggling a little bit. Can you get back on track? You lost 2 of the last 3 games, right? Lost to Green Bay, and then you lose to the Jets. Can you get back on track against a really, really good Detroit team? Can you fix your mistakes? Can you fix the issues up front, right? And as far as the offensive line, can you possibly get Nico back this week, right? How much can he help you in the game? But this is huge because not only are you setting yourself up, I think you're 6-3 right now. If you win this game and go 7-3, you're putting yourself up in the upper echelon of the NFL. Now, if you lose and you go 6-4, you're still, a division leader, but you're not putting yourself in that position as far as the upper echelon in the AFC, as far as the Kansas City Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens, or whoever else is up there. You're kind of mid-tier right now, in my opinion. So this is a huge game to figure out who the Texans are and what can they really do come deep in the playoffs.
Definitely. I want to point out the thing you mentioned, the Bills game, they won it, but, if you really want to be critical with it, people can point out and say, well, the Bills just beat themselves because that was a really weird fourth quarter ending with Josh Allen. But nonetheless, I agree. Huge game, huge implications of just the direction of can the Texans contend right now like many thought they could despite being a younger team. But with Nico Collins potentially returning, do you think that he's going to be able to elevate this team right away? Or like you said, is it going to be a little bit harder since they're probably going to ease him in, maybe not play as many snaps?
You know what? He's going to help no matter what. Like, him being in the game is going to help a lot. Him and Nico and CJ have a really good connection. And the route that Nico runs, for whatever reason, other receivers don't run those routes when he's not in the game, right? So a lot of the short slants, a lot of the short glance routes over the middle. He's a big play threat down the field. So when you have a big play guy like that, it helps the offense and the team as a whole, right? Joe Mixon is doing an outstanding job. Offensive line doing a really good job in the run game. It's just about protecting your quarterback and who can make plays for you in the passing game. So with Stephon Diggs out with injury with a torn ACL, I think Bello did well last week with 5 catches, I think 120-plus yards. But that wasn't enough, obviously, right? So with Nico coming back possibly, you have 2 guys that can really make plays for you down the field in the intermediate, short, and deep game, and then you add to the running game. I think that would be huge to have him back. But I'm gonna say this: I think the Texans need to really change the launch point for the quarterback. Right? C.J. Stroud is getting tons of pressure. He's one of the most pressured quarterbacks in the league. Will change where he's throwing the football. So put him out in boots, right? Play action and have him move the pocket so that helps the offensive line, and then the receivers can possibly get up and down the field.
And when you point out the offensive line, I know you said they struggled. Is it more interior pressure? Is it edge pressure? What's the issue with their O-line currently?
Well, honestly, it's a lot of interior pressure. A lot of pressure the last couple of weeks have come from not tons of blitzes, but just stunts up front. So just 4-man pressure, either from your defensive lineman or 3D lineman and 1 linebacker, and they can't handle it up the middle. Kenyon Green, our left guard for the Texans, He's actually on IR now with a season-ending shoulder injury, if I'm not mistaken. But he struggled versus any stunt, versus any blitz up his gap or near his gap. He didn't go to the right guy. He kind of struggled on who to get, where to go. Him and the center, which are two younger guys, struggled on getting on the same page, right? And it's a lot for offensive line when you come to the line of scrimmage, especially for a younger guy. But they just did not do well in Juice Shrugs and Kenyon Green. So the idea behind it now moving forward, do you put a guy like Jared Peterson or Patterson, at guard, or put him at center? Do you move Juice Shrugs, second year from Notre Dame guy, from center to left guard, right? What do you do to help strengthen that interior offensive line? Because that's where you've been struggling when it comes to getting pressure more from the inside than outside. The outside, you got two bookend tackles that do pretty good, Laramie Tunsil and Tyus Howard. The thing is, though, you paid his offensive line over $155 million. It's one of the biggest it's one of the most expensive offensive lines in the league. They have to show up. You can't have silly penalties like Laramie Tunsil false starting and holding penalties on Tyus Howard. You have to show up and play well. So as a whole, they need to play well, but really in the interior, that's where the pressure's been coming from.
Yeah, and they'll be tested because the Lions, they just got Zadarius Smith, McNeil, and DJ Reader, probably two of the best defensive tackles in the game, probably the best pairing you can point out. So, they'll really find out the true test this Sunday night. We spoke about it last week. Obviously, the Texans didn't make a move. Was that surprising to you that they didn't try and get anyone to help out this team?
It was disappointing because if you look at the AFC teams that are in Super Bowl contention, the Chiefs, they went out and got DeAndre Hopkins.
Yep.
Right.
Bills
went out and got two guys. They got Preston Smith and they got Mike Williams. Right. Baltimore traded for Deontay Johnson. So teams are making moves because they're trying to make a run to the Super Bowl. So it's disappointing because the Texans didn't make a move. I was kind of surprised, like, oh, you're going to get somebody to come in on the defense, on the offensive side, something to make a move to make this team better, and they decided not to, which is, okay, maybe you think your team is good enough, it's got to get healthy, right? But at the same time, when you see the other teams doing it, a two-time champion, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs go out there making moves. Why can't the Houston Texans go make a move somewhere, right? Now, I think it's harder to trade for offensive linemen. I truly do, especially this time of year, because teams pretty much got who they want. It's pretty set in stone. They are who they are. They have identity. So that's harder. But a skill guy, a corner, a safety, a receiver, you could go get somebody to help with this roster. I was a little disappointed when you look at the other AFC contenders and even NFC contenders. You talk about, like, the Commanders go out and get Marshawn Lynch. Oh, man, how huge was that?
Oh, I can't believe they were able to pull that off. I mean, he's a Pro Bowl, bona fide #1 corner. He's awesome. I have a question, though, for the Kansas City Chiefs for you. So, obviously, the Chiefs, they're undefeated. They're 8-0. And just dominating the comp. Or I don't want to say dominating, but they find a way to win. Okay? And they went out there and they got Hopkins. Is there a way to just is any team capable of knocking out the Chiefs?
The Chiefs, you know what? I'm a firm believer. I'm a firm believer in this. Good teams find ways to win. Mm-hmm. And they find ways to win week in and week out. And they have an X on their back because they are who they are, right? Mm-hmm. I think they're back-to-back Super Bowl champions, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
So everybody's going to give them their absolute best. But when you're a good team and you've been in those situations before, to be in a tough game means nothing. We've done this before. We played in playoffs in tough games. We played regular season tough games. Good teams find ways to win. So they're not immortal, right? They're not unbeatable. They can be beat, but they are a darn good team, man. So I don't care if they lose the next three or whatever you can say. They end up the season, 13-4 or 11. They're a darn good team, regardless of what their record is. It's going to be hard to beat them. You got to play a complete game, and honestly, you got to figure out a way to keep Mahomes off the field. Like when you look at I hate to say it, but you look at a team like a Detroit Lions, they're made to beat the Kansas City Chiefs because they have two dynamic running backs that can play any style of offense that you want. They can pound the ball. They can be physical, go inside. They can go finesse and go outside. They can go quick game. They can throw intermediate. They can do all things, right? That's the type of team you're going to need to have or type of offense you need to have and defense to slow down the Kansas City Chiefs. Because if you give him any shot, him being Patrick Mahomes, any shot, he's going to drive down the field and make things happen. And then you add a Clemson dude like DeAndre Hopkins, who maybe he can't run like he used to, but he can still catch. I mean, he can catch everything.
Yeah,
literally.
You were spot.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you were spot on with it last week. I remember I asked. I was like, "Is he going to be good for them?" And you said he has two hands. He can catch with them, and then he put up 90 yards, 2 touchdowns to win the game against Tampa Bay. I mean, what a dog. He's so good. He's so good. So when you were playing in the NFL, you know, I think a lot of people make the comparison the Chiefs and the Patriots in terms of they had this dynamic QB that always found a way to win. I believe you faced New England one time in your time at Jacksonville, but just looking at them, they made the Super Bowl, I believe, 3 times while you were playing in the NFL. What made them such a special team? And do you see any similarities between New England and the Kansas City Chiefs in terms of their way to win and their dominance?
Yeah, I think they're battle tested. Both teams are battle tested, and I fear for everything. But that comes from leadership. That comes from Bill Belichick and Andy Reid. That comes from Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, right? And they did what they had to do is surround those quarterbacks and those coaches with great talent, right? And they developed that talent when it was there. When you go to Kansas City, you know the culture you're getting into. When you went to New England, you knew the culture you was getting into. You knew the expectation. You knew the standard that was there. So no matter what free agent comes in, no matter what rookie comes in, they know the standard. They know what is expected from day one as they walk in the building. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, they understand what's at stake. They understand, hey, the quarterback, the head coach, they're all on the same page. The organization's on the same page. And they're doing a really good job setting that team up for success year in and year out. Even, I mean, people were like, oh, my gosh, they let Tyreek Hill go. Well, guess what? They went out and figured out a way to win without him, right? They understand what's in the building. They're trusting their coaches. They're trusting their quarterback, right? When you have phenomenal quarterbacks, that helps. When you have phenomenal future Hall of Fame coaches, that helps, right? Mm-hmm. So I think those were the biggest things. And then being battle tested, they trusted each other, man. They know the offense, they know the defense, they know, hey, if you get me the ball last, I'm gonna make this happen. So those things are very similar. I wouldn't be surprised if Kansas City does it again. I want to see somebody else do it, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Houston would be nice
if you see a 3-peat.
Yeah, definitely. Again, this is Cecil Shorts III, former NFL wide receiver and host of the Believe in Texans podcast, stopping by. Cecil, I have 2 more questions for you before we wrap things up. One of them being, though, about just the running game in general for NFL teams. I think something we've seen from all these top dogs. You mentioned the Lions, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. The Eagles, they're finding a way to win. Saquon Barkley. The Niners are scary because of C-Mac. You play with guys like Maurice Jones-Drew. How important is it to have a running game to establish an offense and allow for them to succeed?
To me, you still need, it may not be the old school 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but you still need to have a legit running game when it comes to going deep in the playoffs or making a run, right? Look at Kansas City. I keep mentioning Kansas City, but Isaiah Pacheco was amazing for him last year in the playoffs. They had multiple guys able to run the football. And it may look different, right? It may look different for teams. You may be a running back by committee, maybe 2 guys, maybe 3 guys, but you have to be able to run the football, especially when it comes to playoff time. And who knows where you're going to end up playoff time? If you're in Baltimore and it's 20 degrees and snowing, right? Or if you're in Kansas City or if you're in wherever, right? Green Bay and it's snowing and it's cold, you have to be able to run the football. You have to be able to keep the other offense off the field. Today's game is catered to the offense, right? So that means you have to keep them off the field. That's why I love Detroit this year. The offense can do whatever they want to do. They have Knuckles, what they call them, Sonic and Knuckles back in the backfield with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, they can do it all. There's nothing they can't do. So when you're able to run the football, you're opening up the whole entire play because now you can play action. Now you're keeping the defense off guard. They have to bring an extra safety up or backer inside the box, which opens up your pass game because they got to stop the run, right? So it opens up a whole lot of things on top of running the ball, runs that clock out. And if you end with points, you're in a good situation.
Do you think the Lions are the team to beat? I mean, I feel like this conversation, you've been very complimentary towards them. Are they, in your opinion, the team to beat right now?
You know what? I just happened to watch a lot of film on them recently the last couple of days.
Yeah.
So they feel like like fresh on my mind. But they are one of the favorites, in my opinion, to reach the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? They're just playing at a very high level right now. You could argue they are the best team in the league. Even though they lost one game, you could argue they are playing the best football in the NFL right now. They simply are. From Jared Goff, who had almost 2 perfect games not too long ago, to their receivers, to their offensive line. Like, their offensive line is superb. Like, they do a really good job executing on both sides of the ball. I mean, look at their safeties. Both safeties have 4 or more picks in our top 5 in the NFL in turnovers. Like, that's a really big deal. Like, I just mentioned 2 sides of the ball, and they're making plays and doing well, and they're playing. They have a identity that they're sticking to, right? They have an identity on offense, identity on defense. Their culture is just really good right now. So they are one of the favorites, in my opinion, to go to the Super Bowl and win it.
Do they have a weakness in your eyes?
Right now, it's hard for me to see one.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I said it before, they have perfect offense. And you can't say that about everybody. They literally, right now, as of week 10, have a legit, perfect offense. Nothing they can't do on the offense side of the ball. Their defense is causing turnovers. This is when I got Zadarius Smith after losing Aiden Hutchinson. Like, they already got DJ Reader and another Clemson guy. DJ Reader and another defensive line that's playing outstanding. Like, they are set up for success, man. Like, they are playing at a high level. Now, you got to continue to do that, right? You got to stay healthy. Most likely, the healthiest teams go to the Super Bowl. That's just what it is, right?
Yeah, I mean,
but, you know, they are playing at a high level right now.
100%. That's why I love their backfield, because there's not necessarily as much wear and tear, because it's not just one guy. It's, Knuckles and Sonic. My last question that I have for you, Cecil, is just about Will Anderson Jr. Obviously, you're very familiar with him. He is on pace to be one of the final, Defensive Player of the Year candidates. What makes him tick? Like, what makes him so special? And do you see any of the same mentality between him and J.J. Watt, your former teammate?
You said Will Anderson?
I said Will Anderson Jr. You're familiar with him. What makes him tick? Like, what makes him such a special player? And do you see any familiarities between him and J.J. Watt, a former teammate?
Well, I think the biggest familiarity, actually, your second question first, between him and J.J. is just their willingness to be the best they could be. Like, J.J. was always the first guy at the facility, the hardest working guy in between, and the last one to leave every single day. And if you happen to beat him to the facility one day, he's going to beat you to the facility the next day. Like, that was just his mindset. I'm going to be the hardest working guy here. Nobody's going to outwork me. And you see a lot of that with WPJ. He's kind of the same way, the same mentality. He's going to work extremely hard. He's going to grind for it. No excuses. And he's on his way to be a very, very special player. But he's one of the hardest working guys there. And then his natural talent speaks for itself, right? But the willingness to learn from a Neill Hunter, who they brought in this year, that's kind of schooling them up on different pass rush moves, that kind of teaches them how to continue to be a pro. It's only his second year, right? So for him to be willing to learn and absorb as much information as he can from other veterans around the league, from other veterans that are in-house, it shows like he's still humble, but he's darn good, man. Like, he can be really special. And he had an ankle injury last week. He's still up in the air for Sunday, but he's the type of guy, man, that he's going to be a double-digit sack guy year after year after year, make a huge impact no matter where he's at on the line of scrimmage, man. He's a game wrecker and somebody that can be special for years to come.
Definitely. Well, Cecil, I appreciate you joining the show. Thank you for everything, and good luck to your Texans this week.